Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Roy Barker. I'm with Moore Diversified Services. We want to welcome you to our Plug In and Prosper webinar series. Today we're going to be talking about strategic planning, and this is a two-part series we're going to be running. The first part is going to be, where do I begin? We're going to try this in a little bit different format today. I know in the past, typically webinars usually run an hour, but I found that after 30 minutes the content will try to fall off, and of course maybe it's me, I get a little bit anxious and are ready to get moving. So what we're going to do is a 30-minute with more of an information dump, just putting a lot of great information out there, and then at the end of the webinar there'll be some contact information for myself, and that way if you have any questions you can either call or email, and it'll give us time to address everybody's question on an individual basis and not feel like that we're rushed for time or holding anybody up. Today's outline is going to consist of, I'm going to do a couple introductions of the Moore Diversified Services and myself. We're going to look at SWOT analysis, and we're going to look at some data-driven key indicators that have to do with the financial and then marketing and employee turnover. Also, you may want to mark your calendars. Tentatively, we are going to schedule the strategic planning part 2, putting it all together on November 20th, which should be a Thursday at the same time at 1 o'clock, but we will be getting you more information as that develops. First off, let me talk a little bit about Moore Diversified Services. We are a national full-line senior living focused consulting firm. We specialize in both senior living and the healthcare markets, and we do probably about 50% of our business in for-profit and 50% in not-for-profit. We've been in business for over 40 years, and some of the many services that we do offer SWOT analysis and strategic planning help, the operational analysis and benchmarking. We offer help in marketing. We look at employee turnover and try to provide some retention strategies. We also are in the investment advisory service. We do lender due diligence. We also do expert witness testimony. We have some ongoing products that we call our key metric monitoring, which we will help operators monitor the key metrics for them over time just to make sure that everything is staying where it should be, and we can try to jump in and provide some corrective action before things get too off track. And then we can also have a shared executive or our retainer agreement, which actually lets you tap into our wealth of knowledge and experience over a year's time. So you can, if you're interested in that, I'd be glad to share more information with you through an email or a phone conversation. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry for about 15 years with MDS. My education is varied. I have a background in finance, gerontology, and also in the marketing and industrial and organizational psychology, trying to look at all the different components that help senior living operators have successful operations. Some of my community service, I'm on the Dallas AAA Advisory Board, and I've also been a long-term care ombudsman here in the state of Texas. My specialties: operations, marketing, employee retention, and then training and coaching. So let's jump right into it. What is strategic planning? This can be used for corporations, businesses, business divisions at the community level, or different products or services that are offered or want to be offered. And it can even be used for personnel decisions. A lot of times we think of strategic planning as just a corporate level activity, but it's really not. It really can be broken down and used for many different things. What strategic planning will do, it'll give you a vision of where your company is headed or your final destination. Typically, these are, probably in 2 to 4 year timelines, but always good to remember that a strategic plan is dynamic. So if the situation or the environment changes as you're going through this time period, you can always go back and revise your strategic plan. It's also an agreement of intended outcomes and or results. They should be measurable, concrete, and make use of timelines where you can put deadlines on the specific goals that you want to reach. And these will be decisions that hopefully will help shape and focus your operation on success. And then, of course, the end result will communicate your intentions to others. Now, strategic planning differs a little bit from an operational plan in the fact that strategic planning is going to set out the destination where you want to be and the goals, where an operational plan will actually provide the steps in achieving those goals. Why is strategic planning important? Well, number one, it's going to help determine the destination for whatever you use this for, a business, a community, product, or service. It's going to be, I love the old saying, plan your work and work your plan. So what this is going to do is provide a guide of where we want to end up with our plan. It's also going to be a reference for your staff, just to make sure that everybody is pulling in the same direction and everybody knows what the goals are and that they have been spelled out clearly and definitively. It'll also help you define the use of, we all have limited resources and limited energy. So what this will do, it'll help us focus our resources and energy of our organization on the strategic goals that we have set. Of course, once we do set the strategic plan, then of course we would take that and use it in the operational planning so we can actually set out the steps that are going to be needed to reach our end goals. Then it also serves as a litmus test for future decisions. When decisions for our organization come up, what we can do is ask ourselves, does it help us reach our strategic goals or not? And then that will help us determine if it really is important to the future of our organization. Also, it's going to provide us with measurable goals, which we will be able to use to evaluate, how we're doing in our processes and procedures. And then when done correctly, this process is a lot more important than the results. While we do have the measurable goals and results, this actually will help our team have some buy-in because we're going to get them involved and they will all feel like they are part of the plan and want to be part of the solution. So where do we start? The first is we start at choosing a team. It's always good to have high-level board members, staff, and especially our senior staff who are going to be charged with achieving these goals. We want to be sure that we choose our staff members from across all lines and departments and levels. We don't want to make these decisions in a silo. We want to get buy-in from all our different team levels. Also, all seniority levels from new to the most senior. A lot of times fresh eyes coming into our organization can provide us some good feedback, as well as those that are the most senior and know our organization inside and out. And also, it's always a good idea to engage a third-party moderator to take the emotion out of this and to keep the process moving in a fair manner. Setting up the planning meetings, we want to, first off, we're going to schedule a series of meetings and not just try to do this all in one afternoon. This is way too much information to try to accomplish at one setting. Plus, if we do this over the series of a couple meetings, what we can do is once points and issues have been brought up, it will give our team time to think about this, before we reconvene and maybe, come up with some great solutions. We also want to remove all distractions, no interruptions except for emergencies, cell phones off, and kind of maybe even put a guard by the door not to let anybody in case there is a true emergency. We want to try very hard to keep the sessions positive and to provide a safe and encouraging environment where employees and staff can feel free to speak up, and that gets back to why it's also good to have a third-party moderator, just to, like I said, take some of the emotions out of it. If they don't have any interest in any of these goals, then they can keep it more level, the conversations more on a level playing field. So the best thing to do is try to determine where are you now, and what we look at is, number one, the SWOT analysis, and second, we will look at a couple of high-level data-driven indicators. So let's talk about SWOT analysis. What is a SWOT analysis? The SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This takes a look both inside and outside of the company. It's a great place to start the planning process because it's like planning a trip to New York. If you don't know if you're starting in Dallas or Chicago, it's hard to choose which road to start. So that's why we always want to, try to figure out where the company or where the community is at this present time. And again, as with strategic planning, the SWOT analysis can be used at the corporate level, business divisions, the community level, different products or service, or even personnel. The SW in the SWOT stands for strengths and weaknesses. This is an internal view of the company or the product or service that we want to evaluate. Of course, the answers will be very diverse depending on what is being evaluated, but if we're looking at, say, a senior living community or senior living organization, a couple of questions that would be good to ask are, what does your organization do best? What's unique about your company, community, or your staff? And then again, what resources do you have access to? Weaknesses, they could include, employees not being adequately trained or not trained at all, deferred physical plant maintenance or improvements to the community itself, and then maybe even a sales process that's too complex and time-consuming. The OT stands for opportunities and threats. Now this is going to be a view of the external environment. What are the things that are happening outside of your company or community that are having or could potentially have an impact on your success? Again, these can be very diverse, but some of the opportunities that we might look at would be new trends that you see, could be new markets that you could open up into, or it could even be new products or service offerings to your current residents or base of business in order to have some organic growth. Threats could include existing competition. Maybe there's some new competition that's opened up down the street, or in this new age that we live in, it seems like there are new technological advances every day. So let's make, how do you make SWOT work for you? First thing is, let's look at the strengths, and we want to build on these. We also want to look at the weaknesses, try to resolve them. We want to exploit any opportunities that we can identify, and as well, we want to avoid any threats that we have identified. Now, the other part about trying to find a starting point or where you're at would be a couple of data-driven high-level performance indicators. And because we want to set realistic goals, this is part of finding out where we are today so that we can set not only realistic goals but realistic timetables for achieving them. The first is going to be looking at some key financial and operational indicators. The second would be looking at some different marketing metrics. Third would be employee turnover. Just try to find an aggregate rate on that. So let's talk about some of the key financial and operational indicators that you may want to look at. Want to look at top line revenue. Want to see if are we actually receiving as much revenue as we have occupancy. And what I mean by that is making sure that discounts and refunds aren't eating into our revenue stream too much. If you have, like in an assisted living, if you have tiered pricing, you may want to look at, how much time is actually being spent with your residents and how much time is allocated for the different tier levels, where we can just make sure that those all, our staffing, our care delivered, and our revenue is all in line. We also want to look at, our top line expense department. What we can do is benchmark those and just make sure that, we are close to the norms or within a normal operating range. If not, then what we can do is, put these down as a place that we may want to have some growth or some change, trying to be more in line with what the industry is doing. We also want to look at our net operating income, our excess margins, and our cash flow. And here again, these are important because what we want to know is where are we? If we want, if we would like to have a 35% excess margin, that is a great goal. But if we're, the steps that we have to take to reach that are going to be very different if we're already operating at a 30 or 32 versus if we're operating at a 5 or a 6. And the same way with, cash flow as well. We want to set reasonable expectations, and we want to set a reasonable timetable in which to achieve them. Some of the marketing metrics that we may want to look at would include, the total leads and inquiries, leads and inquiries to vacant units. Want to look at our hot leads to make sure that, that there is a sufficient amount of hot leads to work with. Then we always want to measure our leads, inquiries to tours, and then of course our tours to eventual sales or prospects that we are able to turn into residents. We want to look at the closing ratio of all of our marketing and sales teams. And then we want to look at the cost of acquisition of both our leads and inquiries and, making a prospect a resident, just so that we can make sure that not only are we tracking with, industry norms, but we can also look at the different variations within our community, or if you're a multi-community operator, you can look at the different variances between communities. And then the other thing that we suggest is, doing an audit of your digital footprint. Today, the internet and digital technology is more important than it ever has been. Probably about 80% of your prospects, when they come through the door, will have already done research on you and your competitors. So it's important that you have the correct and good information out there for them to view before they come take a tour. The other big category is employee turnover, and see, in some communities we see that this just is astronomically high. But what we want to do, for this session is we want to look at what is the overall turnover rate. Typically right now, I think our industry in assisted living anyway is running about 45 to 46%. We want to estimate the financial impact of this, which the average $10 an hour employee costs about $7,500 to turn over, and there are some estimates that put that as upward of $10,000. So you can see the huge financial impact that this can have on an organization, and why we need to look at this when we're doing strategic planning for our organization or community. We need to try to determine who's leaving, and if we can, why are they leaving. And another great idea is to do a survey, and this is a net promoter, which is a certain style that just basically they're concerned with one question, and that is, would you refer someone to our organization? And when we're looking at doing employee turnover, what we would do is ask the question, would you refer somebody to live here? Would you refer somebody to work here? And then we would ask, do you plan on leaving within the next year? So that takes us really through the entire presentation today. What I'm going to do is just have a little bit of a recap, and then on the where to begin side. And what is strategic planning? Of course, it's the destination or the vision of where you want to be. It helps us communicate this to others, and also it provides us with measurable targets. And of course, that's why we have taken the pains to talk about these key financial indicators, such as the financial, marketing, and employee turnover, because what we want to do is be able to set measurable targets, and we need to do that based on where we are today. It's because we want to be very specific in when we are developing our strategic plan. Everybody would love to, increase their margins and decrease employee turnover. But you have to ask the question of, where do we want that to be? And if we set a specific measurement, like if we find out that, our employee turnover is maybe running in the 80% range, then what we want to do is set realistic goals and timelines of which we could reduce that and try to lower it to specific levels. Same way with the with margins. Everybody wants to increase their margin, but where do we want to increase it to? And then find out where are we starting and what is the work that we have to put in order to achieve those goals. Why do we want to develop a strategic plan? Because we communicate this desire to others in our organization. And here again, with our measurable targets, we've put specific numbers on these that we want to, in this case, we want to increase our margin, we want to increase our cash flow, and we want to decrease our employee turnover. And then it allows us to measure the progress. If we know where we're starting at and we know where our goal is, then we are able to determine if these new processes and procedures that we've put into place, are they working or do they need some more tweaking? And again, like I said, the process, it's as important as the plan, not only because of the communication part, but we want to get a buy-in. We want employees to have a voice in where we're going. We want to know what they see. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things out there that upper management may not always know, but this gives, if we pick the right teams and we have the right environment for our strategic planning, what it does, it allows us to uncover those things in our organization that we need to change, because if we don't know they exist, we can never make those changes. And a great place to start is a SWOT analysis. And here again, the SWOT analysis, it gives us an internal and an external view of the company or product or service that we are looking at, or even a community at the community level. It gives us that starting point so that we can draw a map to the destination of success that we're looking for. And then also to help us know where we are today is we'll look at these these data-driven high-level indicators, such as the financial indicators, some marketing metrics, and then our turnover rate. So now we know where to start. Then the next question is, what do we do next? So what we're going to cover in the part 2 of this series is going to be the putting it all together. We're going to take this information that we've gathered and uncovered in our SWOT and our metrics, and then go ahead and finish out and develop our strategic plan with that. Our tentative date again is November 20th at 1 p.m. and we will send out more information on that as the time draws near. And like I said, what I would rather do instead of trying to answer everybody's comments and questions here, I'd rather want to be respectful of everybody's time. We have allocated 30 minutes for this, and there are a lot of deep and complex questions that may be out there. So what I would ask is just feel free to email me at this email, the roybarker@m-d-s.com, or you can call me directly at 817-925-8374, and then that way we'll have time to discuss your particular questions or situation a little bit more in depth. And the other thing too I've asked is that at the end of this webinar, there's going to be 2 question survey, and one of them is going to be, what do you think about this 30-minute format? So I'd appreciate everybody's feedback on how they like that, and we look forward to seeing you on November 20th. And like I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email or call me. Thank you very much for your time and attendance today. Everybody have a great afternoon.